everybody. I'd like to start just with a show of hands. Who had 2 cookies? Thank you very much. I called this Juice. I think it's a little look into a big part of my practice, which is really the inspirations and references that I over the years continually look at my bookshelf, and it's very much a part of my practice, how I operate, and maybe it will become part of yours just to kind of think this way. So recently I was in Chicago and New York because I had a show in both places, and my commercial agent said, what about going into Leo Burnett, and while you're in New York, into Droga, and giving a little slideshow of your work over the years. And what I found in both venues, one was 200 people and one was about 15, and what I found is that both times creatives came to me afterwards and they were so taken and kind of energetic about the inspiration part. And so that's what I brought to you today. So here goes. So I was very inspired at an early age by images, and really I fell in love with this medium, photography/art, through these images. And when I embark on a project of my own, I really start with word association. So, for instance, my latest project, which is along the Thames estuary here in London, I think of estuary, and I think of flat and slow. I think of quiet, dissolving, ending, becoming insignificant. And this makes me feel the pictures that I want to take. And through this feeling, I look at art that comes to mind. For example, Whistler. And at my studio, we start a scrapbook. Rothko comes to mind, as he, more than any other artist I know, can cause me great feeling. And it's a feeling of weight, of calm, and sometimes even terror when standing in front of mostly his immense works. And I love that his paintings can have this effect, because I realize that we can communicate through color and weight and composition, and just as effectively as we can with an image full of focused literal information. So what I'm saying is that that a strong composition or these kind of images communicate very, very strongly as much as literal information. And if this is the case, that bearing consideration to these ideas is very important to me. Nicholson is another one. And I won't show you more of the scrapbook because this project is just beginning for me. But out of this feeling and thinking, here are some of the estuary images that I've made so far. So let me bombard you with about 60 or 70 slides quite quickly that have really influenced me greatly. And they sit on my shoulder as I make this work. And they work in a way that they inform me whether to move closer to them or walk away from them. They're always sitting there, they're always a reference point. And I don't know how I would work without them, without these loves of my life. And often I look at pictures and I think, I don't like that. But the discipline always for me is, well, why don't I? And I have to articulate that, or at least feel the reason, so that I know which direction to take. So these are always there, and these are my juice. And at an early age, I looked at Edward Weston, really early, at about 13. And for reasons that I could never articulate then, I really loved his pictures. And I don't mean because it's a nude. This was the first picture I ever saw of Edward Weston, so raw and charcoal-like. A nude that looked like his shell, and his shell looked and felt like his toilet bowl. So polished and amazing for the time he photographed this, and I started to see how photographs could hold together like a thread, connecting them, even though they were not the same subject matter, and that was really important to me. And so this idea that pictures can be so very different and still hold together and seen as linked, bound together by clear-sightedness, adhering to your taste and decisions, not others, can and does bring work together. Look, here's another one. His Peppers, probably most famous, dealing with the same ideas as the toilet bowl and the shells, but it's a pepper. Incidentally, when he tried to show this at a salon, this and the shell was not allowed. It was illegal. It was too sexual in 1939. Bill Brandt, I love. I don't know how even to explain this work. I think it's more around the atmosphere, these amazing viewpoints, his printing. He had a great quote. He said that atmosphere is what charges the everyday and the banal with beauty. And if you really pick that to bits, it's a pretty amazing quote. Especially as atmosphere is something you can't see, and yet we're talking about images that you look at. Avedon photographed Francis Bacon, who's a real favorite of mine, and he plays here with Bacon's idea of cutting people severely and the juxtaposition of humans. And I loved this picture of him. I thought it absolutely brilliant. And this is Bacon, and really an influence to me in adding color, and really adding color to my portraits as a way of bringing out what was important to me. We have to think of portraiture not so much as looking into the soul of somebody else. That's such horseshit. It's so much about one's, the baggage I bring into the room, the baggage the person brings into the room, and this colliding of two people causes a dance. And the way that I bring out human condition in people is often lighting. It's a very big part of what I do, and color comes into that so much. Bringing out what is interesting and emotional rather than a likeness. A picture I did of Beckham and Missy Elliott. Can you see these with all this light? I feel like I'm really... You can? No. Well, turn the lights down on me a bit, please. Would you? Thank you. Is that better? Well, maybe you don't need those. Maybe you don't need any. So Missy Elliott. So the face not fully on show, almost decomposed in suffering in this picture by Bacon, leaves us, the viewer, to fill in the dots. Really important. This makes me realize that I must frustrate my viewers in not letting them, frustrate the viewer in not letting the unraveling of a picture be too swift. We are used to popular imagery showing everything in an instant. And for me, this is a big separator between good work and shit. Gerhard Richter, in this painting, asks questions of the viewer. You can't fully see. You're frustrated. All is not clear. Let the viewer clarify this for themselves. That's really important to me. Can you see better now? Good. Back to Bacon. Excuse the pun, I love it. So turned away, really letting us explore our own inner terrain. What's going on? We only have the information here of a heavy figure moving into the unknown, which is very provocative. The unknown is very provocative for the human species. We recognize how the soft curtains must feel as we step through, and so a relationship is born between the viewer and the piece of art. And I remember clearly as a child going into the sea, really young, 4 or 5, going into the sea with goggles for the first time and looking at the sand. And when I looked up towards the deep end, I was absolutely terrified. And I remember that, and it recurs in dreams for me. And out of that, I now realize that this picture comes out of that memory. The known close to you, fading to what's unknown. Alex Katz, not smiling, full of atmosphere of real life. Again, not a lot is revealed. And of course, that the script is not in the picture. The narrative is held by all of you looking at it. You are the teller of the story. I loved how Alex Katz would play with this back view and front view in the simple kind of pop art way. So I'm saying really, one's viewers are intelligent, and if you want a relationship with the work you make, don't reveal everything. I made this work for Samaritans, for Mullen Lowe, an agency here in London, really quickly in an afternoon, so simple yet so effective, because not everything is shown. You really can wonder about what a person might look like, is looking at, feels. And they were really, to my surprise, so successful. Boremans is a great German painter who I like for the same reason, and I'm sure you can see already that this atmosphere, this otherness that I like in work, and that really attracts me. For some reason, some story in my life attracts me to this idea of otherness, of things being ever so slightly surreal, subtly surreal. The back view again, but the hand is painted white. Curran, I look at and I think, what a great sense of styling. What a great reason to lift my camera if this person was in front of me. I look at his work sometimes when I make commercial work for the color references of background to foreground. Really beautiful color, and also hands. He's a great painter of hands, and how expressive they are, and how we communicate through our hands and our body language. Of course, most of us living in this era from the head, from the neck up, think that all our communication is through talking. But of course we know it's not. We read the human condition through body language, and hands are very much part of that. Otto Dix, fantastic at that too. Look how expressive they are. And Sargent, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but this picture is amazing for that hand, that twisted arm. Think how this would be a nothing painting without that twisted hand and that arm. Possibly the look away too. Baltus, who I really am a fan of. And a picture I did of Sarah Gavron, who directed the film Suffragette. And Baltus again, it's a great sense of urgency. I love that. How different this picture would be if it wasn't dramatically lit, if that hand wasn't reaching to hold a candle. So all of these things are references. They all come into any decision that I make in a millisecond. Look how fantastic this is, that the main focus in this picture is actually in shadow. All the lights behind her, the woman playing Patience by Belters, her face and the cards are in shadow. The way she leans with her knee up kind of explains to you she's been there for a long time, but we recognize it. And another study you did, adding a cat. Maybe these are tarot cards, not Patience, I think. Also Belters, so unexpected and recognizable details, so highly kind of natural and surreal at the same time. And the surrealists loved him, but he would have nothing to do with them. And this one really shows it so beautifully. Again, the arm up, this arm above her head, so disjointed. It's really, on the one hand, so natural, but on the other hand, the arm up. And I often say that I really like my pictures to be like chocolate cake, the beauty being like chocolate cake, but with mustard on top. I think that explains it really well. And a real change in direction to Walker Evans, who really is a father of American photography. And so interesting in this first time, really, we see in photography this very dispassionate view, very straight-on pictures of churches. And he was very, very influential to people like the Beschers quite a lot later. And if you don't know who the Beschers are, they were husband and wife lecturers in Germany who taught people like Gursky and Thomas Roof and Struth. And their great belief, which I love, is this idea that if you show things in multiples that have been photographed in exactly the same light, same size, everything is as carefully modulated to be the same as you possibly can, then you start to see the differences between, rather than the details that each imbue. A very democratic way to show objects as equal yet different. And when I was asked to photograph the Obama administration, this work came quite quickly to mind. And to not date the work to any photographic style, this is what I came up with. There were 52 of these portraits. I'm not going to show you all. And another turn in direction with constructivism, very, very popular in Russia and in France. And like Rothko's work, and for similar reasons, this work means so much to me. The formal composition can add solidity to the work, which is what I was starting to say to you. Composition can calm a picture, rendering it really quiet and still, which is something that is very important to me, and I don't know why. Malevich is it weighty or is it weightless? Or tense and really full. And look at Tarkovsky. This is the great filmmaker Tarkovsky, a film still, using the constructivist theory to disjoint the relationships between these people. Stephen Shaw, who was very inspired by the Beschers, the guys with the water towers, showing all this iconography and filling his pictures with very straight lines, and again showing his constructivist influences. Everybody has influences and reference points. I did work here, it's gone, but along a road called the Parade. And constructivism, of course, coming really strongly into my Yangtze work in China, along the river. I'm hurrying, I've got 6 minutes. This 25 minutes thing. After the Yangtze, I traveled a lot. I've made 5 different trips to China over 2.5 years. I came back to England and I got fascinated with the work of Jean Arp. And I wondered how I could show form and allude to human condition through photography rather than sculpture. I wondered how I could show vulnerability and other human conditions that are important to me. I wanted to show that there's no beauty without imperfection. So I wondered how I could be universal and not really depict one person, one female or one man, but rather mankind or womankind. Making this work again over a 2-year period. I covered these people in marble dust, suspended in cream, to distance, to make a barrier between them and me. I wanted them to have a sculptural kind of disquiet, the mustard. And I painted the cosmos on the black paper above this one, really to satisfy myself that we are minute and wonderfully vulnerable below our immense universe. And that we're born and we die. And it's comforting to know that it's meant to be. Now, within this series, I decided to reference a painting that I love. It's called Nude Descending a Staircase. It's by Duchamp. You might know it. And I'm not the first to reference Duchamp with this painting. This is the picture I took. Gerhard Richter's painting. And Jeff Wall. And Jeff Wall I'm going to spend a few minutes on because he's incredibly important. This picture's called Mimic. And I think what's really wonderful about this is it's the first work that he created outside of the studio. And what actually happened is he was walking in I think in San Francisco when he saw this, and he saw somebody mimicking in a racist way. So he saw this scene, and rather than, as a street photographer might have done, as a documentarian might have done, snapped it there and then or caught it, he went back and hired actors and recreated this and started a whole language and conversation about the value in recreating and drilling down to only what's important to the artist, the information that he wants to show. And he never claims to be a documentarian like I do, like I don't as well. And so I find that really, really important to me, that you can see things throughout life, drill them down to only what's important, and photograph what you want. Here's another of his, A Fight on the Sidewalk. He got very interested in Hokusai. This is later. This painting's much earlier, but later he got interested. And he created that over 2 winters in Canada, from hundreds and hundreds. This is when digital had attracted him. From hundreds and hundreds of images, made this reference to Hokusai. This is Hokusai as well. And another image maker who was very inspired by Hokusai's frozen moments, really the chaos that the eye does not see. There's a man called Hatakeyama, a real hero of mine, and quite embarrassingly was a runner-up when I won the Prix Pictet. Absolutely fantastic images, a great example of the photographer really not being able to see what he has caught on film because it's either too small or has happened too quickly. And this is a great reason to sometimes enlarge a picture very large, because the photographer themselves or the image maker themselves hasn't seen the detail that is held in a picture. And this adds a lot to photography that painting never can. And I'm getting near the end. Here's a man called Paul Kuijker from Holland. And he photographed nude animals and cigars. And that's what he called his book, Nude Animals and Cigars, worth getting. And the cigars he smoked as he photographed, he smoked continuously. His nudes. His animals. It's just gone red, I've run out of time. And his cigars. I love this work. Via Salmons. Is there beauty in the banal? These are charcoal drawings. I absolutely love them. So thank you very much. There's one tiny film that I included for no other reason than it was photographed for the Super Bowl. It's a minute long, and I just brought it because I like it. And I think it'll play.
911, operator 911, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushrooms.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
You couldn't hear anything. Could you? I couldn't hear that. That was... Anyway, thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoyed that.